The U.S. is one of the largest exporters of cotton. There's 12.5 million acres that are farmed in this country alone, and that cotton is exported to countries around the world for apparel products. That soil is degrading at a rate that is extremely fast. The way that we are farming is not sustainable. It will not produce the kinds of food, cotton, and other materials that we all need on this planet. There was a bit of an aha moment when we were introduced to the concept of regenerative cotton. We shifted our attention to raw materials and developed an understanding that the greatest impact we could have on climate change and other climate issues was really thinking about the sourcing of cotton and the soil. Citizens of Humanity is working side by side with two groups, farmers and advancing eco-agriculture, to move farmers towards a regenerative future. Advancing Eco-Agriculture is an organization who have been pioneers and at the forefront of the regenerative agriculture movement, working to support and supply the appropriate biological components to farmers in both food and the cotton space.
Historically, growing cotton has been a major agricultural contaminator, using increasing amounts of pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, and water, with decreasing results.
Not only is that a lost cost because the grower's paying for it, and increasingly it's not as cheap and not as justifiable to just apply more so that you get the yield that you want, it's also, contributing to air and water pollution.
That's not something that we can maintain or continue. But unlike other areas where there isn't a solution to reverse it, regenerative agriculture is in fact a solution, and a very viable solution if we take action quickly.
So this is the citizens field, 122 acres. As you can see, we had corn last year, planted a heavy cover crop, and then we grazed the cover crop.
Cover crops are kind of a no-regret solution. They're basically like a straw between the atmosphere and the soil that allows you to keep the ground covered during times when it would otherwise be bare, keeping that carbon being pumped into the ground, whether that's out through the roots or once that plant dies, the residue being left on the surface.
You have a lot of passerbys, farmers are always driving by. They don't understand what we're doing or why we're doing it. That farmer's lazy, or that's a trash farmer. That's kind of the term that they like to use for people that farm like I do. Is we like to leave our trash out there, which, biomass left over from a different crop, from the previous crop, to me, it isn't trash, it's gold.
Along with keeping the ground covered, the principles of regenerative agriculture include reducing the use of pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, integrating animal grazing, crop rotation, keeping a living root at all times, and minimizing tilling of the soil.
Some of these practices are like gateway drugs, like you start with a cover crop, or maybe you sprinkle a little bit of compost, and it starts to turn the system on. The microbes start to wake up and get more active. And as that happens, it makes it easier to implement more regenerative practices.
I think there's a history of apparel brands going into farms and communities and saying that they want to make this transition because they are looking for a quick marketing win. They'll do a collection of products, they'll put it into the market, and then they'll leave the farmer behind in the years to come. This is a deep, multi-year, multifaceted commitment.
At the conventional price, the farmer is barely breaking even on their cotton. At the enhanced price that they're getting for implementing these practices, it can mean a huge benefit to the farmer.
I wish I could know every customer. I wish I could know everybody that wears the cotton that I grow. They can't. I can't know them and they can't know me. So the best way to do that is to align ourselves with somebody that's going to tell our story for us.
A lot of brands need to recognize that this is also just about survival. If you want a stable, secure supply chain, now is the time to start investing in regenerative.
I see this probably being the way that cotton is grown within the next 10 years. Just because most everybody that has implemented this on any scale has been wildly successful.
In addition to financial incentives, Citizens of Humanity has been monitoring the results.
About 90% of the samples that we had, so not even just 90% of the farms, but 90% of the samples that we collected had an increase in things like soil organic matter, had a decrease in things like nitrate. There's a really great analogy of you can't measure love, but you feel it, you know it when you see it. And it's the same thing with regeneration. There's really no substitute for the feeling that you get when you walk onto a regenerative farm.
I think what we need to do is we need to lead by example and show that this is a better way.
Climate change mitigation, water quality, air quality, whether it's promoting biodiversity, it's all connected.
I can see a future where more and more companies and brands can participate in this kind of work and really make a significant difference. My biggest call to action would be just make changes now, because the small changes are going to lead to the big impacts, and we've got to start now.